Welcome back. My name is Amanda, and we are going to talk about one of my favorite times of the year. And I know I said the Open was my favorite, and I love the CrossFit Open. It's such a great experience for the entire community, but I also love semifinals. I think it might even be more exciting than the games because there's a lot of people at the games that are just there to not win. But at this time, there's a lot of people whose seasons are on the line. There's so much to watch. It's 3 weeks long. It's one of my favorites. It's a really exciting time of the season. So we are gonna preview week 1 of semifinals, and that includes Europe and Asia. So we're gonna do those 2 semifinals. I will give you my predictions and some people to watch. But first, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I'll be doing these previews each week. I will be doing wrap-ups, so lots of content to come. Subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Now, let's get into the predictions. But wait, first, let's also talk about the fact that there are 3 semifinals that are run by CrossFit. And this week, that is Europe. Next week, it's North America West. And the final week, it will be North America East. And for these semifinals, the ones that are theoretically the biggest for CrossFit, have the most qualifying athletes, we do not have a live stream for day 1, which is disappointing. We didn't last year for some of the events. I don't know why. I was hoping for something different this year, but all of day 1 isn't being streamed Friday. And that is when the teams are going. Half of the days of the teams going is not being broadcast for us. They're only competing Friday and Saturday, and we're not getting a live stream on Friday. There is an individual event on Friday. We will not be getting a live stream of that. I guess there's gonna be some sort of wrap up the day after, or maybe later that day, but definitely the day after, before we see the events for day 2. But it's just disappointing. When I started CrossFit back in the regionals days, you could watch all of the regionals, every heat. Now, not every heat had broadcasters, like announcers on it, but you could see every heat, you could hear the floor announcers and have an idea of what was going on. So it's pretty disappointing that years later, a decade later, that we have less to watch. It's disappointing. But I will argue the other side of it just to be fair. CrossFit for a long time operated at a loss for this part of the season. The Open made money, but come regionals, semifinals, those sort of events, they were losing, and the games, of course, they were losing money on these events. It was draining CrossFit. And I think part of the goal of the new leadership we've seen in CrossFit over the past few years is to make sure they're making more money. It's a for-profit company. So they want to make sure that they are operating semifinals at, I guess, either breaking even or making money. So broadcasting or skipping broadcasting one whole day is going to allow them to make more money or at least break even. That's why they're likely doing it. That's why I believe they're doing it. Does it suck for all of us? Yes, it does. But I guess it also encourages people to buy tickets and to go to the events if they're able to, but most people aren't, and no one really, except for people that are covering it, well, no one is going to all of the events because some of them are happening at the same time. So no one will be able to watch all of it because they just can't be at 2 places. But some of the other events that aren't run by CrossFit will have streams on Friday. So I guess you just have to travel to the ones that are sponsored or put on by CrossFit. And then you wouldn't miss anything. You could watch the recaps or watch the actual live streams of the other events that have live streams and go to the CrossFit ones live. Maybe that's what CrossFit wants. Not realistic for almost everyone or everyone. But that's my complaint. We will move on now and actually talk about who I think is going to qualify from the games for the two regions we have going this week. And ladies first, we'll start with the women. So we will start in Europe with the women. This is a big semifinal. We have 10 women and 10 men and 8 teams going to the CrossFit Games from this region. So we will start with the women, and who I am going to have on the top of my qualification list is the 2023 CrossFit Games winner, Laura Horvath. I would be shocked if she doesn't qualify. I would not be shocked if she doesn't win semis, because she wants to win the games again. That's where her focus is. She didn't win semis last year, and she won the games. This is a stepping stone. I think that these workouts line up well for her, and that she could easily win this semifinal, but doesn't have to. I wouldn't be shocked if she doesn't, but I would be surprised. So I have Laura Horvath at the top of my list. Second is her training partner, or someone she trains with often, Gabriella Magala. She won the Europe semifinal last year, beating Laura Horvath. I just think the workouts play a little better for Laura this year. But I think both of those athletes will be far ahead of the cut line and won't have any issues, barring some sort of crazy injury or weird judging thing. I think both those athletes are safely going to qualify for the games. Moving down the list, I have Karen Friova in third. I was a little bit hesitant to put her there, and that is mostly because she just competed a few days ago at the Athens Throwdown. She did win it easily, and she is an athlete that tends to like to compete a lot, so maybe it's not a crazy thing for her to do. We've seen her do similar things, but I'm thinking a lot of the athletes behind her will be fresher, but she just might be better and more confident coming off a win. So I am going to put her on that final podium position, but I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't there, but I think she's pretty safely in a qualifying position. Next, I have Emma McQuaid. After her, I have Jacqueline Dahlstrom. So Jacqueline Dahlstrom has been at the games many years, came in second in that sandbag event that everyone really enjoyed. She came in second to Danny Spiegel. She's much smaller than Danny Spiegel, was really impressive in that event. She did not qualify for the games last year, and there were some issues with her lane. It was a whole thing. She didn't qualify. I have her in a pretty safe position to qualify within the top 10. I think having a year off, having time to focus on filling in any gaps she may have will help her, and I think that she can be in a pretty safe position to qualify at the end of the weekend. After that, we have Emma Tall, Alicia Fuliano, Manon Anganese, Rebecca Vidison, and then last, I have Thuri Helgadottir. So I actually have all athletes who have been to the CrossFit Games before. I just think this field is stacked, and I think that these athletes with the experience are going to do very well. Thuri was my last one in, and the one I feel least certain about, for sure. I definitely think if I had to pick someone right now off this list to definitely not make it, I would pick her. But she has been so good for so long. She's been to so many semifinals, regionals, games, multiple games. And I feel like the programming hasn't lined up for her. Not that you should have to bank on programming, but Thuri Helgadottir is a smaller athlete. And we know last year's semifinals with all the machines was not built for smaller athletes. So she's a great CrossFitter. She's a great lifter for her size. I think maybe with what we are seeing this year, it might play a little bit better for her to make it into that top 10. So we shall see. It'd be cool to see her make it back. So there was someone else in this field that I was hoping would make it back too, and that is Sarah Sigmundsdottir. She announced that she will not be competing this year. She has an autoimmune disorder that she is working on getting under control. I think she expects a full recovery long term, so that's awesome, but she will not be competing. She's just not in the right place for it. She did a pretty good interview on Savan's podcast if you want to hear more about that, but no Sarah Sigmundsdottir. She's been fighting to get back for so many years, and it's not going to happen this year. Couple other names. Claudia Gluck. She is one of the potential rookies that I think could break into the games field. So definitely someone to keep your eye on. Probably my top person to keep your eye on that I don't have in my top 10. Jennifer Muir, Andrea Solberg, Amy Kringle. That sort of rounds up the women that I think you need to keep your eyes on. There might be a few others. Europe is a really stacked region, but those are the ones that I'm going to just spotlight and keep your eyes on those names. Any of those made it into the top 10, I would not be shocked. Let's move over to the men's side of things. So in first, I have Joona Koski, and he's just done so well this year. How do you not pick him to win this? I can argue why you might not, and I will. But first, why I am picking him. He won the Open. He won quarterfinals, looks great, has so much experience, has been competing for a decade. So he just, I don't know how to pick against him. And he looks so good this year. I'm thinking that he will make it back to the games, almost certainly, and I think he could win this. The second place person on my list, I get why someone else might think that he could win. So second, I have Lazar Dukic, and he won the last 2 Europe semifinals he competed in. So yeah, I can see why you might pick him to three-peat. But Joona just looks so good, and he did not win semis in 2021 for Europe. Who won that semi? Joona Koski. So I just think that Jona's gonna get the best of him this year. He's beat Joona, but I just think that this year, Joona looks so good. Unless he peaked early or something, I think that he has a really good chance of winning this. Lazar second. In third, I have Björkvin Karl Gudmundsson, and this may be a little bit of bias from being in this space for so long, and so has BKG. He's been so consistent, stood on the podium at the CrossFit Games before. He's just still so good, and experience does play a part in a lot of this stuff. He has the experience. And now that I'm looking at this list, I've got a lot of really experienced people, not really banking on a lot of rookies to really surprise us and win anything. But I do think there'll be some rookies on the men's side making it to the games, but not surprising us by winning semifinals. After that, I have some other games vets. We've got Hendrik Haapalainen, been at the games a bunch of times. Jelle Hoste, he kind of burst onto the scene last year, really tall athlete, kind of Brent Fikowski reminiscent, and made it to the games, did well at the games, and I think he stays in that games field. After that, Moritz Fiebig. Then I have Ananol Akai, which I probably butchered a little bit. I did try to listen to his name. He definitely didn't say it like that. But I tried. I think he's going to make it to the games. Uldis Upanik, Luka Dukic, that is Lazar's brother, and rookie Victor Hoffer. I feel like Victor Hoffer has been at the games as an individual. He has not, but he's been around it quite a bit. So that might be why. He's still very young. He was on the demo team last year and did pretty well there. I think he might be able to do just enough to make it into this field of games athletes against a really stacked Europe field. I think he's gonna do it this year. I think so. Keep an eye on him. People that I have on the outside looking in. Bronislaw, his last name I'm not as good with. I feel like we just call him Bronislaw. Bronislaw Olenkowicz. Bronislaw. He will probably win the snatch ladder. I don't think he's going to qualify, but he's likely to win that event. So definitely hear his name when you're watching Europe, and maybe I'll pay more attention to how to pronounce his last name. But anyway, he made it to the games last year. I don't think he's gonna quite make it this year. He is a masters athlete, so he might be going to the games, just not this games in Texas, maybe in Birmingham. I also have Colin Bouchard. He just missed it last year. I think he's gonna be in about the same position this year. And Fabian Benito, he made it to the games last year. I just don't think with this field, I think we're gonna get some rookies. I don't think he's gonna do quite enough. Let's head over to the team side of things. And I know that people aren't as interested in the teams. Obviously, CrossFit knows that too, because they're not broadcasting a bunch of their events, the team events. But there are some good teams here. 8 teams from this region are going to the games. I'm not gonna talk through 8 of them with you. I think I'm just gonna touch on some that I feel like are very likely to qualify and that might have reasons for you to pay particular attention to these teams. So first, we have C23 CrossFit, the program Motion. The program is the program that quite a few other athletes are on. So we've got Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Moritz Fiebig, so some games athletes follow the program. And Ella Wunger, who was a games athlete as well, she is on the team this year. So that team did very well in quarterfinals. I think they're gonna do well at semis as well. They have the experience, they have the coaching. I think they're gonna do well there. Then CrossFit Prestanda Krieger. They were first in quarterfinals. That's why I am picking them to qualify for the games. Moving on, CrossFit Walleye Orca. This team has a lot of names. Now they list 6 people on the roster on the CrossFit website. I'm giving you the 4 that I believe are on the team. I could be wrong, but I believe these are the 4 that are on the team. Mia Hesketh is a previous games athlete, teams athlete. She's listed as the captain, so I pretty much guarantee she'll be on the fields. Elliot Simmons, Jamie Simmons. Jamie Simmons has done very well as an individual. Elliot has done pretty well as well. They are married to each other. And then I believe their final man is Christoph Horvath. That name sounds familiar. He is the brother of Laura Horvath. So probably a pretty good athlete. And we've seen him compete individually at semifinals. He's a good athlete. This is gonna be a good team. It's going to be a team to keep your eyes on at the games as well. But for now, keep your eyes on them at semis. CrossFit Butcher's Lab Flake. I don't know how you say that. And I think that's a Greek letter in there, so I don't know enough about that. I didn't do Greek life in college. CrossFit Oslo Krieger PSL. They were the better Oslo quarterfinals team. If you're not familiar with Oslo, CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue has won the CrossFit Games before, been on the podium a whole bunch. That is a very good team. So just know that Oslo, CrossFit Oslo, that gym produces good athletes and good teams. And they have another team too that I think is also going to make it. That is CrossFit Oslo Krieger Riz. I believe Kristen Holta. She is an athlete that competed at the CrossFit Games for many, many years before she retired. I believe she is the alternate on that team. Pretty good athlete to have as your alternate if something happens. So definitely keep an eye on those 2 Oslo teams. Those are the teams I'm going to spotlight for Europe. There'll be a couple other teams that make it to the games. We will see some of their events. Okay, let's move on to the Asia semifinals. So for the women, we have 3 women this year qualifying out of Asia, and only 2 men, but 3 women qualifying out of Asia. And we've got some pretty good names to talk about, which I feel like this is one of the forgotten semifinals, but we got people here. So I think the person who's going to win this is Sarah Kai, and she did really well in quarterfinals, winning. She finished 23rd at the CrossFit Games last year, 29th at the year before that. So she's been to the CrossFit Games 2 years in a row. I think she makes it back this year. May have her best year yet. After her, I have Sungyoon Choi, and she was at the games in 2022 and 2021. She didn't compete last year, but in 2022, she finished in 26th position, which isn't bad. That's very good for a region like this that just isn't as developed as North America and as Europe. So really good. Both these women have done well. So I think those two women basically can, unless barring anything crazy, can almost just book their tickets to Dallas-Fort Worth. Third, this is where things get a little bit more confusing, or there's a lot more chance of things looking a little different. So I'm gonna put in third Dewan Jung. She was third in quarterfinals, has competed at semifinals 4 times, lots of years in CrossFit. Name I really recognize. That's who I'm gonna put in third to make her first trip to the CrossFit Games. But some athletes to watch. I'm gonna say Anastasia Dodonova and Evie Hollis. Now I may have mispronounced both of those, but those are 2 other people that you may wanna keep your eyes on. If either of them ends up in third, I wouldn't be super surprised. Let's move on to the men. Just 2 men out of Asia. And it's kind of interesting there too. So in first, I have Arthur Semenov. And if you're looking at the quarterfinals leaderboard, you're like, is he even going to semifinals? He is competing out of 32nd place. So he will probably be in the first heat, which is weird because he is a games athlete, has competed at the CrossFit Games. But when you look at it, you can figure out why pretty quickly. He took a major penalty, 162nd place on workout 1. We saw lots of major penalties in that workout. Arthur Semenov, he is one of the athletes who experienced one. So that sucks. He was still in the field. He still gets to go compete at semifinals. And if he does well at semifinals, no one will care. So he made it, it's fine. Moving on. In second, I have Ivan Karatsev. He was top out of quarterfinals, and he qualified on a team in the past. That team didn't compete at the games, but he did qualify. So pretty fit guy, has been pretty fit for several years. I think this might be his year to make it into the games. Couple other names to keep your eyes on. Ant Haynes, he has lots of semifinals experience, lots of regionals experience, and 2 games appearances. Could he slip into the top 2? It's possible. And then I have Moritz Sedakt, and he also has lots of semifinals experience, so someone else I would keep my eyes on. For the teams for Asia, I have 1 team for you to watch, and they qualify 1 team. This is the team, I think, but this is the team based off of the data. That team would be KT CrossFit Kolsnikov. They won every quarterfinals event. First place, all of them. And they won all of those quarterfinals events by a substantial amount. No one else was even close. Their scores, when you look at them compared to the teams that were underneath them, it looks like they cheated. I'm not saying they did. I don't think they did. Their scores are not crazy compared to some of the best teams, but compared to this field, their scores are much better. Much, much better. I don't think anyone's going to be competing with this team unless they did cheat. I'm not saying that, but based off of those scores, that's like the only way. They are so far ahead that there's no way they can be that far ahead in all those semis events or quarterfinals events and just look horrible at semis. It just doesn't, it wouldn't make any sense, logical sense at least. So they are very likely to be that first place team, and it might not even be a competition. And there's really no one to watch other than that because they only qualify 1 team. So, yep, that's it. That's it for that. But Europe is gonna be fun. The individuals over here on Asia may very well be pretty interesting. I am thinking about possibly doing some live streams over the weekend when this is all gonna be going on. If that's something you might be interested in seeing, me popping on live here and chatting with you guys for a little bit about that day's events, Let me know in the comments below. If you even made it this far, let me know. And if you made it this far and you're not subscribed, subscribe. Get in on the fun. Lots of content all year round, but especially now when we've got lots of stuff going on. So I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Should I get Carson? You guys want to see Carson? Carson, come here, buddy. He's asleep. Carson, can you come here? Can you come say hi to the camera? Come on, buddy. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Boy. You made it over. Say hi, buddy. Is it past your bedtime? Are you ready for bed? Okay, we'll go to bed right after this, okay? Say bye. Bye.